Hello and welcome to Exploring Christianity, a Journey of Faith. Can you believe February is almost over already? Seems like New Year's was just a few days ago. Did you make New Year's resolutions? How are they going? According to U.S. News & World Report, 80% of New Year's resolutions aren't kept, and most of them fail before the end of February. I have to confess that I've stopped making New Year's resolutions. I used to do them every year when I was maybe in my 20s. I would commit to exercising every day, eating 5 servings of vegetables daily, losing weight, being friendlier, doing volunteer work each week, getting up earlier, watching less TV, sticking to my budget, and maybe making the most of every single minute of my day. Just a few small changes. And I would fail every time. And it's obvious why. I would be over here, and I decide to instantaneously change to being over there. No gradual transition, no one step at a time. I just decided I could make that big jump by force of will alone. Crazy, huh? Almost no one can make that kind of sudden shift and sustain it. Most of us need to make one small change at a time, get good at that, and then make the next small change. Over time, dramatic changes can happen, but usually not all at once. I know that. You know that. God definitely knows that. I think that explains why the God of the Old Testament seems so different than the God of the New Testament or the God we experience today. God is not really different. We know from Malachi 3:6 that God doesn't change. What has changed is us. Then, as now, God meets us where we are, takes our hand and leads us forward, usually one small step at a time. Let's look at one of the most difficult examples of this. Slavery. At the time of the Old Testament, slavery was a common practice. If one tribe conquered another, they'd either kill them or make them into slaves. If a person got into financial trouble, they would sell a family member or themselves to get out of debt. And there was a risk of simply being abducted and sold into slavery, as happened to Joseph by his brothers. The Bible doesn't explicitly condemn or condone slavery. It does not tell the Israelites that slavery is horrible and wrong, as we now see clearly that it is. Instead, the Bible acknowledges that slavery was a common practice at the time. It meets the readers where they were and then takes them one small step in the right direction. It tells them that they cannot kill their slaves in Exodus 21:20. It establishes a death penalty for kidnapping and selling another Israelite into slavery in Deuteronomy 24:7. In Deuteronomy 15, it tells them that if a fellow Israelite has to sell himself into slavery, he must be released after 6 years and given resources that will allow him to sustain himself. And God explains why. When they were all slaves in Egypt, God redeemed them. While we might wish that the Bible said clearly, slavery is wrong and you must stop it entirely right now, God instead meets the Israelites where they are and tells them to take that one small step. Then, in the New Testament, we see God encouraging the Jews to take another small step. It tells the slaves that they can be called to be followers of Jesus in 1 Corinthians 7, and that slaves and free are both one in Jesus in Galatians 3:28. It tells slave masters to treat their slaves fairly and not to threaten them in Colossians 4:1. And Ephesians 6:9, Paul states that the slave Onesimus is a dear brother to him in the book of Philemon. And more significantly, Jesus tells us to love one another and love everyone. Jesus sent the Holy Spirit to work directly to slowly change their hearts and ours. Yes, the New Testament tells slaves to be obedient, even to their harsh masters, which tears our hearts as modern-day readers. But God took these steps and all the thousands of tiny steps that have occurred in people's hearts since the time the Bible was written in order to get us to the sensibilities we have today. I see many other examples in the Bible of where God met people where they were related to views on women, violence, taxes, and children. When I read passages in the Bible that I find offensive or painful, it reminds me to be very grateful for how far God has progressed us, and saddened by how far we had to come and still have to come. I know if there was a better and faster way, that God would have taken it. Do you have any examples to share of where God met you or someone else where they were and helped them move forward in small steps?